Yep. You can't turn your phone while recording, so maybe that's what.
That's it.
Great evening, great evening, great evening. This is Michelle Patrice Wade, host of Beautifully Reconstructed. Let's talk, let's heal, let's live. And on tonight, I'm excited to share a segment called
Journey Conversations with Michelle.
and Michelle. If you have followed me, you know that my sister and I have shared this life journey for more than 2/3 of our lives at this point. And so along the way, we have learned many valuable lessons, and we are still learning and growing together. So we want to, as we grow and what we've learned, we want to share that with you. So on tonight, we are going to again launch Journey Conversations with Michelle and Michelle, and Journey Conversations will be segments. It will be focused around our friendship because, of course, that's that's what we know, and it will be kingdom to practical to kingdom, because everything is going to still coincide with kingdom, even the practical things. So but just letting you know that we won't be necessarily quoting verses all the time, but it will
And thus said the Lord.
yes, yeah, it won't be thus says the Lord all the time. However, because that's who we are, the word is going to come out of us in our conversations. And of course, this is a ministry that God has birthed, so it's always going to focus and put God first. So here we go. Tonight, I did want to talk about, this show. Even my regular guests that come on, we are never scripted. So I didn't even tell her what we were going to talk about tonight. But we had a conversation this actually on yesterday, and one of the things that we were talking about was when I was actually going through what I later learned was depression. And one of the biggest things that was a challenge for her was me keeping secrets. Now, one of the things that we talked about was the fact that although there were things that I did that to shut her out, she made sure that she never annihilated me, so that I knew that I had a safe place in her. So just kind of want to talk about that. Do you want to talk about how special I was at that moment, or?
Special is the word. That's what we're going to call it. So maybe we should let them know that especially if it's someone who doesn't really know your journey or know what happened, what this is based around. So you just didn't fall in a pit of depressions because you had that better to do. But
right, and that's what you want to start with me. Well, I guess I can start since it was
your story.
It was my story.
Yes.
Okay, you tell it so well though. But anyway.
And scoot up just a little bit so they can have all of you in the camera.
I'll scoot up a little bit. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
I was trying to cut half of me off so I can look a little thinner, but now y'all got all parts of me. But in any case, when if you follow me, then you know parts of my testimony. If not, I am going to share this part of the journey. Part of it was I was married at the time, and unfortunately, I was my ex-husband was very unfaithful. He had several mistresses over the course of our marriage, and at one point, the greatest challenge was the fact that he conceived twins with someone else. Now, not only is that devastating because we were married and I was being betrayed, however, at the time, we were trying to conceive. And so I had several miscarriages before I found out and after I found out, because I did decide to stay and try to work it out. And before I actually learned about the children, we have that, we call it woman's intuition. But, now I understand that that's Holy Spirit trying to say, hey. But however, at the time I was not listening because of the fact that, I wanted, it wasn't that I just wanted to be married. I wanted the institution of marriage. I always said to my sister that I didn't get married to get divorced, and I didn't. However, and we may touch on this a little bit as well. I should have been praying to make sure that he was the right one before I even got married, so that I wouldn't have had to get divorced. But that's the part of my journey, and now it's I can help other people, so no regrets. And so it got to the point where I was not sharing what was going on, because on the outside everybody thought that we were the perfect couple. We had the nice house. He was making really good money, so he was the provider, taking really good care of me. And I didn't want to break that facade. Not only was I was embarrassed, and one of the things I've learned over the course of my life is that when someone has hurt my loved ones, I get a real attitude. I really do. Yeah, I flip. So, and I know that my family is the same way. So a big part of me did not want to divulge what was going on, because I did not want them to look at him differently, because I knew that I was trying to work it out. And even that statement, and this is something to echo what I said yesterday, even that statement, there's an issue with it. I was trying to work it out, and unfortunately he was not. And so when you have one individual working on a relationship and the other is not, it's such a great challenge, and it brings you such heartache, because you are pouring everything that you know to pour out into a relationship, and it's so hurtful that the other party is making giving you false hope that their desire is to do the same. And so that's the cycle that I was in. My and I even shared yesterday during our conversation that I didn't even understand that I was going through what I now understand as emotional abuse. And so he was that type of person that he did the wrong, but I just had to be okay with it. And so I couldn't question him. I could, but there would be consequences. He was going to give me the silent treatment. And if you've ever been in the house and you have silent treatment, that is so uncomfortable. And so what ended up happening most of the time is that I would just sweep that incident under the rug. And so the rug just kept on, you couldn't see the dirt, but the rug kept on getting higher and higher, because the dirt started getting really thick. And so all of this was going on, and I did not share it with anybody. One of my favorite phrases was, I'm fine. And so always. And so I shut my family out. I told, it wasn't until the twins were birthed that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and I had to divulge some of the information. I still didn't tell it all, because truth be told, there was a lot of information that after I got divorced, and sometime after, it was just normal for me to have a conversation. I wasn't hiding it anymore. And you would look at me and say, I didn't know that you went through that. And so with that, because I shut her out, and told her only parts, there was stuff that there were parts of my journey that she couldn't help with until I was ready to open up. But at the same time, I wanted to bring light to the fact, like I stated, there were times that you knew that I was hiding something, but you didn't make me feel as if, okay, I know you're hiding something, so just don't talk to me until you get yourself together. You made me, you questioned me on a lot of times, but you never pushed me away.
Right. I think it's so important, especially when you, if you call yourself a friend, a sister, a confidant, that other person always feels safe with you. And because of what she was going through, imagine if I treated her any differently, then she wouldn't have had a safe place. she would have felt alienated from, the person who was the closest to her at the time. And most times the person that is the abuser, that's what they want anyway. They want you to feel like you have no one you can turn to, no one you can run to. And so I had to make sure that, sometimes, especially when you know somebody so well, when something is not right with them, but then you have to also give them the opportunity to feel comfortable enough and ready enough to share whatever it is they're going through. And you also have to be, there were often times, and if anyone who knows me well, I would say not so more now, but back then I was the more outgoing one. She was the one that was in the, in the shell. So she was the quiet one. I was the more outgoing.
Still am.
Whatever. I was more outgoing, more, outspoken, and didn't mind giving you my opinion. But I had to learn at times that I just had to be a listening ear for her, not to give her my opinion. Now, even though when I found out a lot of the things that she was going through, never did I say, Shell, you need to leave him, or, he ain't no good, he this, he that. Because if you've ever been through a situation like that, or you've ever supported someone through a situation like that, you understand that person they have to get to that point where they are tired of what they're going through. It doesn't matter what someone else tell them, even the person that they know got their best interest at heart and love them the most. You have to be the kind of support that whatever you decide to do, I'm here for you. And that's just what I had to do. We knew each other so well to the fact that, we pretty much know each other better than we know ourselves. And there would be times now, even though she had got to the point where she was well able to hide a lot from me, and I would say, God knows, he knows what he's doing. Because even at that point in our lives, even though we were, we confessed to be saved, but there were still some areas of our life at the time that I said we need deliverance in. So we weren't completely sold out to Christ. So at that time, maybe if I knew a lot more then, it probably wouldn't go so well. But it was to the point where I felt like, okay, there is no way I'm going to allow him to be a different kind of person to her, and me not be the person that she needs me to be at that time. Unfortunately, even though you felt like you were, at the time you had to put on a facade or another face in front of family and friends, he was too. Because, I would never, even when I found out the things that he was doing, I could not believe it. I'm like, no, not him, because the person, we have this little insider that when we first met him, we met his representative.
That's right.
And that's what we met. We met his representative. We didn't meet the real him. We met his representative. And his representative was just, a gentleman,
very much so.
A gentleman. So of course our family and friends, that's all we knew him to be, was a gentleman. So she was suffering in silence. And for anyone who may just be joining now, we're not telling our story and our life journey together just to be telling it. We're telling it hopefully that we will be able to help someone.
Right.
Because yesterday in the conversation, like she said earlier, I did not have a clue what we were going to talk about today. She was like, we're just going to flow. And I'm like, oh my goodness, okay. But yesterday in the conversation, it came up, we were talking about, she said, Shell, I realized I was in a state of depression, but I didn't even realize it then, and, there were days I felt, even sometimes when things come up that she didn't really get to 100% share with me back then, I still feel helpless, because I'm like, man, if she just if she just felt like she could have shared that at the time, she wouldn't have, she wouldn't have had to go through all of that. But that was what she was supposed to go through, because again, your ministry was birthed through, through all of that. Of course, we didn't know that then, but I was always saying, why in the world would my sis go through this? She's the sweetest person in the world. She never hurt anybody. I mean, I was so concerned about her that I was praying and asking God to the things that she was going through, just turn it to me. Let me be the one to have to, even though I wasn't even married at the time, but let me go through some turmoil and some, some trials. I was like, why her? Out of all of us, why her? But he knew at the time, he knew that he could trust her with what she was going through, because when it was time for him to birth this ministry, that she was going to be ready, willing, and able, and that she was going to be able to, to follow through. But
I don't know if I was ready, willing, and able. I was obedient.
Yeah, you're right. You kicked and screamed for a little bit, but I would say but you also knew.
He knew I would be obedient.
Yes, he knew that even though sometimes we kick and scream, but he know that you do what he asked you to do. But yesterday when she said, she said, Shell, I didn't realize it then. She said, but now I know, looking back, that I was really depressed. And, we had laughed before about, she said, I would come home sometimes, she said, and I wasn't only but a Debbie cake box away from being 500 pounds, she would be teasing like that. And I'm like, girl, you were never that big. But, now looking back, sometimes she would say, Shell, you didn't realize that I had, gained so much weight. And I don't know, I guess when you're close to somebody, it just like you said, it kind of snuck up on you. It snuck up on me, And now we look back at pictures, we're like, I promise, I said, oh sis, I'm so sorry I let you get that size. I said, I would never, ever let that happen to you again. But, to me, she would, I don't, even now when I think back, I'm like, man, I don't know how I didn't feel like you were. I don't know. I guess when you're really close to somebody, even though you don't want nobody else talking about them, of course.
Right.
But I don't know if it was just that I didn't want to face the fact that you were bigger than I know you should have been, or I just didn't know how to say it to you, or either maybe I don't know if it was that I felt like you had already been going through so much that okay, we're not gonna even touch that. Mm-hmm. But
and she's talking about the fact that I got to the point where I was about 300 pounds. It wasn't until, because I stopped weighing myself. I went to the doctor, and of course you go to the doctor and they force you to get on that scale, rude and disrespectful. And it was then that I realized how heavy I was, and the doctor told me that I needed to lose weight. And when we talk about the little Debbie cakes, that was a reality in my life, when I would get so depressed that there would be days that I would just eat a whole box of little Debbie snack cakes, particularly oatmeal cream pies or honey buns. Those are my favorites, but I literally would not eat anything else. I would be, unfortunately, I would be home alone. And during that time, just those thoughts racing, it was my coping mechanism. And so that's what I did. I ate. And so before I knew it, my weight was out of control. And I didn't really, the reason why I didn't really realize that I was, the reason why I did not realize that I was depressed was because of the fact that no one talked about depression. I really didn't know what depression was to know that I was depressed. I didn't know that me eating those cakes and divulging and overeating was me being depressed because of what my life circumstances. I didn't realize that when I was going home from work, leaving home early, I would go, some days I would not go to work and just lay in bed and cry, or I would leave work early and go home and cry. And I didn't, I know that, of course, it was painful, the circumstances, However, it was to the extreme where there were days when I felt that I could not function. And I, like she stated previously, I was going through that all alone. Not only did I not tell my family, I didn't my those who I was going to church with. For example, there was one particular incident, like I shared earlier at the top of the program, was the fact that my ex-husband and I experienced several miscarriages. And I remember one particular miscarriage. I went to I was an usher at church, and afterwards, I was like, they asked you how you doing. I'm fine, I'm good. And no one even knew that I had a miscarriage. And I remember he actually said something to one of the ministers of the church, and she came up to me and she was like, Michelle, you walk around here saying that you're fine and this just happened to you. And I was just, first of all, the root of me learning to cover up things was from the molestation. I didn't talk about, that was a secret. So I didn't, and of course, even I didn't divulge that information until I was 43. So from the beginning of 2 or 3 years old, I learned how to keep secrets, and I was the Academy Award winner at keeping face, putting that mask on. And so, I believe that at one point I had that mask on so long that, that mask was who I thought I was. And so, at that point, she, of course, prayed with me. And, of course, that gave me an opportunity, a moment to release. But unfortunately, with the, when I went through the miscarriages, he shared it in that moment. I don't know why. But, outside of that, it was always, it would happen. And he would act like, okay, well, let's move forward. So that's what I learned to do. So everything in my life was around, okay, just keep quiet and move forward. So I never learned how to release anything, so I kept it all in. And so that's what I think the turning point, I think, was when I left the situation, but I went back. I'm going to let you talk about that a little bit.
Okay, well, before I go there,
okay,
let's go back to you putting on the facade and feel like you couldn't share what you was going through, not even with me. We definitely want people to know that you have to find someone that you can confide in, someone you can, because someone that you can share your heart with. Now she knew that even if then that I wouldn't have judged her. But earlier you said that one reason that you couldn't share it with me was because of how I would see him.
Right.
And in this case, in our case, it would have been, double worse, because not only was he my brother because he was married to my sister, but he and I have formed our own friendship, our own bond, and so you do have, now one thing I would say, when you do confide in people, family and friends, first of all, you want to make sure that you confide in the right ones, people who will keep your what you're going through, keep it in confidence, who not going to go and tell all your business. So you do have to know who you can share your business with, but also you want to make sure you can share it with someone who is mature enough to stand by you, because the thing was, when you share your problems with your mate, with your family and friends, today you're mad as crap with them. You're at the you're at this point.
That's right.
And then tomorrow you lovey-dovey again. But your family and friends don't bounce back that quick.
They don't.
So and that's another reason why you definitely want to be, you have to be careful, because when you think about it, if someone is hurting someone you love, you're not thinking about anything else. All you want to do is try to protect them. You want to try to get them out of that situation. So it's hard for family and friends to really bounce back when you bounce back so quick. So another thing, not only should you make sure who you share your business with, but make sure it's the right time to share it. Because if you're not sure, what you're going to do about your situation. If your mate, man or woman, because unfortunately, sometimes the female is the abuser as well. So whether you're the husband or the wife getting abused, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, make sure that when you do share it, you are ready to do something about it. Because you'll be the one. Today you're ready to leave, you're ready to pack up, and then tomorrow when your friend come get you, you're not leaving. Now your friend mad.
Well, and one of the things that you said, if you're being abused, and now I'm so excited about the different ministries that talk about the different levels of abuse. During this time, I had no idea that I was being emotionally abused. I didn't, and even after the fact that I left, it wasn't until I started, and to be honest with you, when God launched this ministry and there were different guests that were talking about abuse, and then of course I would do studies on abuse, and I was like, oh my goodness, I was going through that was me. But I didn't even realize it because again, it wasn't on, the platforms weren't as great as they are now. And of course now we have social media, so we have so much access to all of this information. However, before, there were no platforms that I knew of. I knew it wasn't being taught in my church. It wasn't talked about amongst my family or my community. So I didn't know that about abuse, and I didn't know about depression.
Right.
So how can you work through something that you don't even know that is an issue for you?
Right. Unfortunately, until more, I would say more recently, people that was going through those kind of things felt like it was, first of all, you feel like it's your fault. Mm-hmm. You feel like it's your fault, but it's never your fault. Especially, I would say, I think people don't really realize and appreciate how they should be treated until they come into the love of Christ. And then you
that
truly,
is so true.
Before then you deal with it. You think that's just, you think he or she love you with their fists, or he or she love you with their words. When you come into the love of Christ, you realize, wait a minute. Something is not, something's not right here. And I think that's another reason why, things went the way they did back then, because again, we weren't, we didn't know that we should, be praying and fighting, fighting what you were going through, and fighting him in the spirit, because we weren't there yet,
That's right.
So it was just so, it was just so different.
And I do want to say this, even when we talk about, growing in the love of Christ, because, we were to a point where we were reaching out for Christ. We weren't, like you said, we still had areas that we needed deliverance. And still, of course, we're still growing. But
every day.
We're not living a sinful lifestyle like we were at that time.
Right.
So, but when I was reaching out for help, because one of the things you stated is to make sure that you get wise counsel. I actually spoke to a pastor who gave me advice that I needed to stay because I had forgiven him, as if I could not walk away and forgive him. And so basically at that time, again, I'm dealing with depression. I'm already emotionally abused. And, I really, because of the fact that I really don't understand, it's like of course I understood the scripture that because a man commits adultery, you can walk away. However, I'll be honest with you. I just thought that God was calling me to be a Hosea, and my ex was Gomer, and we were and you know what? And I truly believe that there are situations where there is restoration
definitely
after adultery. However, again,
has to be both
parties. And again, one of the things that I stated, before, was the fact that I should have been praying before I even got married to make sure that that was the person that I was supposed to marry, because there were things that were going on that even I learned how to keep my mouth quiet and keep secrets even before we said I do. There were things that I noticed, and there were red flags, But I ignored them, especially after we got engaged, because of course you don't break the engagement. After all, I was an old maid getting married at 26. He was going to be a good provider. He claimed that he would treat me well. I was getting these bonus babies. You know, there was so much that I had pictured for my life, and I did not want to interrupt that plan. My plan. Yeah, man has his own plan, but God, but
yeah,
but
and
God.
even it's so funny to say that because you know we later discovered that even on the day she got married, I remember this so well. We were at a friend's house all getting dressed.
Yes.
And I was downstairs at the time, and she was upstairs. And someone came running downstairs to get me, and they were like, at the time we were Big Shell and Little Shell, and someone was like, Little Shell, you need to come upstairs. Big Shell is crying, and she crying. I'm like, she crying? Why is she crying? This is like literally maybe like an hour or so before we get ready to leave to go to the church. And I go upstairs and I'm like, what's wrong? Why are you crying? So I'm thinking she just got emotional, you know, realizing that, yeah, she's really about to get married. No, some of that was, oh boy, what am I doing?
What am I about to do?
You know?
And you know, later I shared that day, the day that I am about to get married, I literally called, you know, him, and I asked him, are you sure that you're ready to get married? And of course, you know, he said those sweet enough things, and you know, I still wasn't confident, but you know, after all, he was going to say it, you know, till death do us part, you know, and so he was making this commitment to me. So whatever red flags that I saw, of course, they were going to disappear after marriage, because he said that he was going to love and honor and cherish me. So those things that I saw, they were just going to disappear, because he just loved me so much, and he was going to change his ways. I was going to be the one that was going to change him. Yes.
Trust me, you cannot change a person. Only God can change a person.
That's right.
You cannot change a person. That is not, so whatever is going on before the marriage, it's not getting any better after the marriage, unless you get counseling, or unless both of you grow in Christ. You know, I mean, it can get better, but if you already see those signs beforehand, then yeah, you might want to rethink that. And you know, I know some people, they'll make this list, they'll outweigh the good and the bad. Well, you know, he only got about 5 bads.
Right.
He got 20 goods on this list. But even though there may be more good things you listed, but them 5 things together can weigh way more.
They sure can.
Than those 20 good things.
They sure can.
You know, because I'll tell you what, if he already cheated and hit you, forget that. I don't care if you got 100 good things on the other side. That, you know. So anyway, so we're gonna talk about. You wanted me to talk about. At the point where I was,
okay, I'll tell that part, then you can tell your reaction. Well, you know, we're talking about the fact that I didn't realize that I was depressed. I didn't realize that I was being emotionally abused. And so, you know, at this point, and I didn't realize that I was being manipulated either. Lord, where was my discernment? See, that's why you fast and pray, read your word, keep that connection of Christ. Yeah, get that discernment, Lord.
No, but like you said, because he was well put together, because he was nice looking, because he made money, because now this was, I think the big thing, and really how he sold both of us, especially me, because I was like, girl, you better not let that good bag go. No deserving at all. Just stupid.
None.
But remember when your car broke down, when your car, did the car blow up? Your engine blowed up in the car, right?
It did. The engine
was our little brother driving it?
I can't remember. No. I think
Junior.
I was driving it to Charleston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so her car blew up, and he purchased her a car. Now, come on. Why would you not think he wasn't a good man? He go purchase her a whole car.
A whole car, yeah.
Whole car.
A whole car.
It wasn't him. It was the representative.
The representative bought me a car.
Watch out for the representatives.
And that's and that brings a great point. Don't get so caught up in what one individual, man or woman, is doing for you that you neglect to see the other things. That they are doing. They're doing something for you, but what are they doing to you? Right. Are they cheating, lying? For example,
what are you giving up for what they do?
Right.
What are you giving up?
Some of the signs that that there was going to be an issue was that when he came to visit, his phone was always on silent. No, not silent. It was turned off. Turn off.
Turn off.
He turned it off. We ain't even gonna take a chance that it's gonna rain. We turn it off, and so of course I would turn it on, and it would automatically ring. So and there were a couple of times that I answered, and it was another female on the line, but of course I didn't share that either. So and I went on, got engaged because I had this new car. He gonna take care of me, And that wasn't all that it was. Of course, I had already had an emotional attachment to him. And of course, I thought I was in love. And, one of the big things was one of the reasons why after I got divorced that in addition to knowing that it was right in God's eyesight in regards to not giving myself to another man that was not my husband, when you start sleeping with someone, first of all, we know that there's a soul tie, and you start being committed to a part that may not necessarily be your heart. Mm-hmm. You might just like the feeling of, being with that person, what have you. And so at that point I was committed to this relationship. And so, of course, we're engaged. We're going to get married. Yeah. I don't care if his phone ringing or not, because again, once we get married and say I do, it's going to start ringing. And, he's going to be committed to me because he told me he was going to be committed to me.
And, not only was the representative good to you, the representative was good to your family, the representative was good to your friends.
Right.
When we met him, I was pregnant with Mari at the time.
Yes.
And he was just, that was my bro, that was my big bro. He was sweet to me. He would always making sure, like when he come down the weekends to visit, because at the time we were roommates, so we lived together at the time. He would make sure we had groceries in the house, make sure we ate, sis, you gotta eat good for you and the baby. So like I said, the representative was well put together. The representative was well put together, but representatives don't last long.
They don't.
The truth will eventually come out, and we know because even though you were going through so much, but at the time you knew that the only person who could really bring you out was God. And so there was no way at the time that you could reach for God. You can cry out for God. You can call out to him, because he already says that when we call out to him, he's answering. So there's no way you could have been doing that and then he was going to just leave you,
That's
so
right.
Unfortunately you still had to go through a little more, but he was going to bring you out of that, so there was no way that he, even earlier, we said, now we knew that back then we should have been at a point where we had close enough relationship with God to ask him who your spouse should be. We should have been, you should have been praying. But even now, even if you still don't do it right, even if you're married, because if you're married now and you didn't pray and you're going through things, trust me, turn your life to Christ, because he's the only one who can make it better. He's the only one who can turn that thing around. But sometimes some marriages last, like you said earlier, there's restoration after adultery, there's a restoration after abuse. It has to be both willing parties. There is restoration, and then sometimes though it has to be the end of it.
Right.
It has to be the end of it, because God, we already know God is a gentleman. He's not going to force himself for anybody to change and turn their heart and life to him. And unfortunately, your ex wasn't ready for that.
He was not.
No, he wasn't ready.
And, we said this earlier, I couldn't, I laughed about the fact that I was going to change it, but the truth of the matter is I could not. And so, as women, we are nurturers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we think that, we have this ability, we try to become little GODs. And so,
Yep.
we think that if we do this right or we say that right, then, and of course, even when when I started to gain the weight, now, isn't it funny now? Now, when we got married, I was fit, and I gained probably, I guess, it had to have been maybe about 100 to 150. I don't know, because I was pretty small. I was smaller then.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was about, when I realized that my weight was out of control, I was about 300 pounds, tipping right at 300. And I felt as if, okay, well, it's because I gained the weight. When the reality was, when
you were small.
Well, when I was small, he still, basically he met me. He said he loved me. He said that he wanted to commit to me. However, he still was cheating even before we got engaged, when we got married. He never stopped. And so, but, as women, I'm not going to say just as women, but anybody, whether you're a man or a woman, oftentimes we take on the responsibilities for someone else's actions because we think if we do something different, then, of course, then that would make them love us more, or they would react, in a better way towards us. Mm-hmm. When the reality of it is that we're not the problem. Mm-hmm. They are.
And you're only responsible for you.
That's right.
You're only responsible for what you do. You're only responsible for how you act and react toward others. So you can't hold yourself accountable for what someone else does to you. That's or right. How someone else reacts to you. That is totally on. That is totally on that person. So we're gonna talk about. So you left the marriage. You realized at a point that it was time for you to move on. So she leaves, she moves out, she gets her own place.
Sure do.
Get her a nice house. Nice
yes.
house.
All on my own.
And so at this time you were getting closer to God. And now before you left home, when you wanted to pray with him, read the Bible with him, he had no time for that. But as soon as she moves out, get her own place, sometimes we'd be on the phone and he would call and she'd be like, I'll call you back, Shell.
That's cool, for I don't want to let you know he calling me.
Yes. I'm like, huh? So now he calling. Now he want to pray with her. Now he want to read the Bible. He had wanted no parts of that. But most people, when they feel like they got you, they continue to do their dirt. And then as soon as they feel like you got enough strength, now she got enough strength, she gotta move out, she on her own. So if I want her back, I'm gonna have to get myself together. So now they're just over the top about and over the hill about doing whatever you want them to do before. And now they're so willing to do it because they know that's how they can get you back. They can reel you back in. And so that's what he was doing, slowly but surely. And so, after, let me see, how many months had it been when you went back? Was it maybe like 2 or so? It wasn't even that long, was it?
Like 3.
Like 3 months. Okay.
Yeah.
So
probably not a whole 3, but yeah. So yeah. This is the funny thing. Okay, the reason why I finally got the strength to leave is because we started going to counseling with our then pastor. And so during the time of counseling, what he said to myself,
the pastor
as well as
did you want to work it out, right?
This is like you just be like, sometimes, what were you thinking? But the pastor asked him, was he committed to our marriage? And he said, no. What are you saying? So, but I was just so in a fog. I literally.
She heard yes.
I just said,
no.
I heard no, but I said, he didn't mean that.
So when she calls me after the counseling session, I'm like, okay, how did it go? And she says, well, pastor asked him, was he committed to the marriage? And he said, no. And I said, huh? He said, no. And I'm like, oh, okay, so then this is it, right? So she goes, but Shell, you don't understand. And I said, what do you mean I don't understand? And she said, well, he said no, but I can see in his eyes that he didn't mean no.
He didn't mean that. That's what I said, and that's
I
what
was
meant.
like, oh yeah, my sister is off her rockers right now.
Yeah.
So I said, oh, okay. So I said, now, Shell, I want you to listen to exactly what you just said to me. You said the pastor asked him, was he committed to the marriage? He said no. But you heard no, but you feel that because you saw in his eyes that he didn't really mean no. I said, no, I want you to listen to that again. Does that really make sense to you? I said, because why would he say, first of all, why would he tell the pastor no?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the time that he really should have let the representative be present in the counseling session. If he was really, so at this point, I guess, he was tired. He didn't, at this point, he didn't care. I really think that he really just didn't think you were going to leave anyway.
I truly believe that.
He thought that you were going to fight it because, spouses know, man or woman, husband or wife, they know when the other one is getting closer to Christ. And, unfortunately, some people think that we Christians are just supposed to roll over, lay dead, and let you walk all over us. Like we have no backbone. And they feel like they can do anything to you. Oh, she'll fight, he'll fight. Right. So he really thought that she was going to fight. It didn't matter what he said. And he definitely didn't want to be going to no counseling. And he didn't want the pastor in their business. So, yeah, he was like, no, I ain't committed. But she was like, but Shell, you should see, I can see in his eyes, he didn't mean that. I was like, if I was by her, I'd probably be like, girl, wake up. What you mean? I said, come on, sis. I said, that would have been a time for him to allow the representative to be present. He would have told the pastor, yeah, I'm ready. I said, he don't want this. He don't want this.
You know what? And we're saying it in a comical manner. However, it's so real, and that's why you have to be so sensitive because of the fact, especially if someone, because this was emotional abuse, and it not to take it any lighter than any other. However, what if someone is in a physical abusive situation? Mm-hmm. You don't want to say anything again that would annihilate them from you, that safe place. So you have to be careful with your words. You have to be careful how you handle them so that they don't feel so judged, where they don't feel as if, okay, well, I can't talk to them because of the fact that they're going to judge me, and I don't need that right now. On top of what I'm going through at home, I certainly don't need the pressure of someone else, putting additional weight on me, trying to conform to what, they feel that I should do in this moment.
Exactly.
And so, instead of her telling me, she said it earlier, but instead of her saying, well, you need to do this, she was asking me those questions so that I could think about what I was actually saying to her. And I actually did, at that point, although I still didn't want to leave, I really wasn't ready to leave. I did make the decision, and I did leave. And you were right. And I wanted to make that point because of the fact that he didn't believe that I was going to leave, because of the fact I know that because of his reaction when I did leave. Mm-hmm. It was like, this is out of nowhere. Yeah. But you just said that you weren't committed. And, of course, I had already prepared myself. I had already gotten a separate banking account. Mm-hmm. I had already got the place. And so when I told him that I was leaving, I was already prepared to leave. Basically, that next day, my family was coming to move me. Yes. And so his reaction...
Pack up and let's go.
Pack up and let's go. Now, unfortunately, because like you heard what I said a few minutes ago, well, just a moment ago, that I really wasn't ready to leave. I knew that him saying that he was not committed to the marriage meant that I was giving him permission to be unfaithful. Because if I found out anything, what would he say to me? Well, I told you I wasn't committed, and he had already told me that. So as much as I wasn't ready to leave, I knew that I felt as if I needed to. And so, of course, told the kids, was preparing, packed up, and was ready to go the next day. Now, unfortunately, again, I wasn't ready. Mm-hmm. So 3 months later, I'm talking to well, first of all, I'm ignoring her calls.
Yes. now, which never happens. And we said earlier that we knew each other like we know ourselves, like the back of our hands. So I already know how she operates. She know how I operate. So why she ignoring my phone calls? She already know that I'm gonna know something ain't right with her. So now, as she said earlier, when she you know, when she decided to leave, you know, that was totally her decision. I made sure, even when she was talking about the night in the counseling session, you know, even though I'm going through my head, I was like, oh my goodness, I gotta go over there and slap my sister. I gotta wake her up. I was like, okay, Shell, you being real stupid right now. I'm saying this in my head, but never saying this to her, because again, there is no way I can risk alienating her from me, because now that she's starting to open up, I need to make sure that she knows she can continue to do that, and I got her back no matter what. Because whether she decided to stay or leave, I'm gonna support her either way. But so she leaves about 3 months later. So I'm calling her. I call her. We playing phone tag. I mean, we used to talk. I mean, all day, 3-4 times a day,
Right.
and she'll call, you know, we playing phone tag. I'm calling her, leave her a message. She's not calling back. Or when we do talk, she's short talking me. Like,
look like she got an attitude right now.
Yeah. I'm like, something ain't right. I knew something wasn't right now, and I already knew that he had been calling her. You know, because she already told me that, you know, he was calling and he wanted to pray with her. You know, all of a sudden now he even want to lead prayer. And then one day, I remember one day she called me. She said, "Girl, he can pray." I said, "The devil can pray."
Sure can. The devil knows the word better than, yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, really? Okay. Now, and again, even though my personal feelings, I also had to be careful with my personal feelings, because even though I'm watching out for her and I don't want her to be hurt, but I also don't want to be wrong if I convince her not, you know, if I convince her not to give this a second chance and he really is serious, you know. But it just, you know, I just didn't feel like this was just going to be right for her. Well, I'm like, okay, but I got to be there by her side no matter what. So anyway, I'm calling her. We playing phone tag. She's short talking to me. I know something is not right. So the day I find out that she went back, so yeah, she done gone back before she even told me. So I call her on my way to work one morning. She finally answers, and I'm like, "Girl, where you been? You know, why I haven't been able to talk to you? What's going on with you?" I'm like, "Man, where are you?" And she was like, "Huh?" The that's code for I don't want to tell you. I don't want to talk. Always, huh? Like,
revert to a 5-year-old, huh?
You hear me? I said, where are you? Because it was just a silence in her, in her voice. And I'm like, and I knew it before she even said it to me. She was like, at the house. At the house. What house? Nothing. Girl, you hear me? Where are you? At what house? Well, that's why I didn't know how to tell you. But I came back home. I said, you what? I came back home.
And she wasn't delivered then, so she can't repeat what she said.
I can't.
This is Christian broadcasting. And
we weren't
not
Christian.
She was not delivered then.
No, no. Yeah. So blibbity, blibbity, blibbity. Yes. But y'all, I was angry, but again, my concern and love for her still trumped that. So I couldn't even talk to her at that point because I was so hurt, because I just knew this was not the right decision. And so I just told her, I said, okay, I'm almost at work. I said, I'll talk to you later. When I hung up, I cried all the way to work. I cried the rest of the way to work. I got to work. Even one of my close co-workers that we became good friends, she knew something wasn't right with me. She was like, what's wrong? I told her, I started crying. I'm like, I'm worried about my sister. She went back to her husband. I said, this is not going to be good. And so I was like, even though I think at the time I didn't know. I know I didn't know maybe the right words to pray, but I knew who I could talk to. And I'm like, okay, God, you gotta protect my sister. You gotta protect her. I don't know what's going on. I said, but if this is not the right decision, if this wasn't the right thing for her to do, I need you to make a way for her to get out of this. So anyway, I was just so devastated, but still was there to support her. I let her know if things, sis, I said, I hope this. Later when we talked, I said, okay, I told her, I said, I couldn't talk to you earlier. And I told her, I said, I don't know why you felt like you couldn't tell me. And, she said she knew that if she told me, she knew how it was going to hurt me. She knew I was going to be concerned about her, because not only, it was even worse for me at the time, because at the time we weren't even in the same state. She was in Charlotte and I was in Florida at the time. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't, if something happened to her, I was spending so many nights worried up at night. I couldn't even sleep sometimes because I was so concerned about her, because I couldn't get to her. I wasn't a phone call away, And that was another reason why that week when we were playing phone tag and I couldn't get her, I was even, more concerned, because when I finally got her, I was like, girl, I was about to get in my car. I was about to take a ride. I said, if I didn't talk to you today, I was going to have to let my husband know, look, I got to go to Charlotte because something ain't right. But so after she went back, she said she knew she couldn't tell me, because even she wasn't 100% sure that it was the right thing to do.
Well, let's correct that. Once the first day, unfortunately,
before you went back.
Oh, before I went back.
Why you made the decision to go back? You felt like it was right.
I thought, I just knew I was making the right decision, because he said he had changed.
He was praying. He was reading his word.
We even went to counseling. He went to counseling on his own, and then once he initiated that, we went back to couples counseling, and even the counselor saw a change, and so I just knew that this was the right thing. And so, unfortunately, I promise you all, the first day that I walked back in the house, as I'm moving my as he's moving my things in, because I told him that I moved out, I was not going to pack up my things. If he wanted me back home, he would pack them. He had to move me, and so he moved my things back in. And then I remember, I'm very, if you followed me, you know that I'm very visual, and so I can actually see him sitting in our study at the time. And when I asked him a question, his response to me in that moment, the very first day, let me know that I made a mistake. But of course, I was not going to admit that to myself, because now I've already told my family that, well, sort of. Sort of. I think maybe at that point I may have told Mama and Daddy, I'm trying to think, did I tell them? I can't even remember. I may have just kind of snuck it in. I don't know. But at this point, I'm already selling, regardless of not if I had told him that I was planning on moving, and it was already in the process of moving back. I know that I was selling to my family that he's changed, so that they would accept the fact that I was moving back. Mm-hmm. And so I couldn't admit it to myself, because now I've already left. I'm telling him that he's doing better. And so now I'm back at the same, I went around the mountain to the same point. I'm back where I gotta make this work. Again, I had to make it work. And so I was back at the starting point where I was doing most of the work, and he was just happy that I was back. And of course that's a tell sign of someone who is an abuser. They're controlling and they're manipulative, and so of course
they do whatever you need them to do in that moment to get you back to where they want you. Remember, you even told him that, okay, now you're gonna have to apologize to my family. Yes. you're gonna have to let them know that this is what we decided to do, and things are gonna work. Things are better this time. And he did that. He made phone calls and everything.
He made phone calls, because, it wasn't as if I just said, okay, well, you just got a free pass. I was trying to make the outline for him to do the work. When in reality, and that's another sign, when in reality, if he wanted to do the work so much, and he wanted the marriage, and he understood that my family was a part of the process, and his decisions did not just affect me but those who we were attached to, then I shouldn't have even had to tell him to do that or ask him to do that. But I did, and because he went through with it, of course I thought, okay, well, this is proof that he's changed. But but unfortunately, again, that was just a part of what he did and felt was necessary to make me feel as if to come back. And
because he, even when he called me, he sounded so sincere. I mean, I didn't buy it, but I was still, it was still that glimmer of hope, because my thing was, being that she'd already decided to go back, then I would definitely wanted it to work out the way she wanted it to. But it was still a part of me. I didn't think so. When he called me and he said, told me he apologized, he was sorry for everything that he had did to my sister, and that I didn't have to worry about her, and he promised that he was going to take care of her, he was going to do right by her. And basically, I didn't have much conversation for him. I just said, okay, and I said, I hope that you're telling me the truth, because if you're not, then just let her go, But he was like, no, you don't have to worry about your sister, she's gonna be good, everything's gonna work out, So okay, but the representative couldn't hang out much longer.
He couldn't.
Representative got tired.
He got tired, and we won't share all of it tonight because of the time. But a long story short, and we'll give more details of how it finally ended, maybe on the next episode. But it did get to the point where, more was unveiled. And this was my prayer to God at that time. I said, God, I don't trust him, but I trust you. And so I trust you to reveal anything that needs to be revealed. And I will just say this without going into details at this moment, is that in due time, God revealed. And he revealed it in a manner that I could not deny it.
And he could not deny it.
Right.
Even though he tried.
Right.
But he still couldn't deny it.
Right. It was to that point, because again, when someone is an abuser, they are manipulative and controlling. So of course they can tell you that the sky is red, and you're looking at it and you know that it's blue, but you're questioning, well, maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe it is.
Maybe it is, And so it had gotten to that point where, I was questioning everything that I questioned him on. Well, maybe, it's me. Maybe I'm the issue. Maybe, I'm going from, I'm judging him off of our past experience and not where we are now. And so again, I'm going to cut it short because of the fact of the time, but and maybe we'll pick up where we're leaving off now. But I did get to the point where I was strong enough to walk away. Now, one of the things,
walk away without looking back.
Walk away without looking back. To God be the glory. And one of the, if you're just joining, what we talked about, some of the points that we hit was the fact that I was depressed and didn't know I was depressed. I was being emotionally abused, and I didn't know I was being emotionally abused. In today's time, there are so many ministries and so many people who are willing to be transparent and share their testimony. So it's a blessing. Mm-hmm. So when you are in those situations and you feel as if you need help, then there are definitely avenues of support that you can reach out to. And one of the things that I would encourage you, my sister was talking about the fact that she was a listening ear. She was not judging me. She was not making me feel bad about my situation. She was concerned, and she would ask me the right questions to make me think, so that I could properly assess the situation. But she was not throwing rocks at me or, telling me, shaking me, saying, get it together, because, sometimes that doesn't work. I'm not going to, if someone, even as little children, our parents start, saying, well, was that the right decision? They try to get us to process through critical thinking, so that when they understand that that was not the right decision, then they know not to make it again. But when you just tell someone to do something, oftentimes they go back to what they did before, because they didn't make the decision, they didn't process it, and so they didn't really understand that that was the wrong thing to do, or the right thing to do, because you could have been telling them right. However, because they didn't make the decision or process it on their own.
Right. And it's how you deliver it, because it wouldn't have been good for me to be at you when you already had him at you.
Right.
And if I'm at you, then it just would have been so much more confusion for you, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then you would have shut down from me, because I definitely, at this point, you didn't want to hear anything about, not trying to make your marriage work,
Right.
One of the questions I always used to ask her on almost every conversation, I would ask her, why are you staying? And her answer would always be, because I didn't get married to get a divorce. And that was always her question, always her answer. And then I would always say, well, Shell, who does? And that was always something that you said that it always made you think when I would ask you that question.
Right, because of the fact that it made me think about, okay, well, wait a minute, I'm not saying that I want to stay because I love him so much, or I feel as if God is leading me to stay. The only thing I would say is that the fact that I didn't want to get divorced, and I was a product of divorce. And so, one of the things that I focus on in my ministry, even when I'm mentoring and coaching, is the root. You have to look at the root. Again, starting off, I talked about the fact that, because I was molested at a young age, and that was a secret. I learned how to keep secrets at an early age. And so now, that all of those roots were so deep that I just learned how to, walk around with the mask and just do what was, I thought was the right thing to do. And because of the fact that, although, again, going back to the Word of God does tell us when, some things you have to pray about and say, Lord, I may not understand this.
Right.
However, some things are black and white.
Some things are just
and when it comes to adultery, it tells you, the Word of God plainly says that you can walk away. However, I said earlier that, I was going to be Hosea, and he was Gomer, and, I was, but, God didn't, I never asked God,
is that my story? You never asked
let me rephrase. I did ask, but I don't know if I listened.
Okay.
Yeah, because I talk about all the time that prayer is a two-way conversation.
Right.
I've learned that through this journey.
Right.
That I did more talking than listening. And so oftentimes I was asking God for an answer that I was already giving him. Like, okay, God, I know you're God, but let me tell you what your answer will be.
What I want you to do.
Yeah, what I want you to do, and this gonna be your answer, okay? Okay,
this is how I want you to handle this.
Yeah, basically I'm asking him, okay, for restoration of the marriage, and that's the only answer that I want.
Not if you want this marriage to be restored.
Right.
So you were asking a question, but not the right questions. Not the right way.
That part.
Yes. And, I mentioned earlier when I used to ask you about, when I would say, why are you staying? You would say, well, I didn't get married to get a divorce. And not all the time. Sometime I would come back at her and I would say, okay, I would say, do you hear your answer? And I would say, Shell, no one gets married to get divorced. I said, never did you just tell me. I said, your answer have never been to me, well, Shell, I really feel like this is who God ordained, or who God gave me, and who, because I really do love him, and I do see the potential. It was never nothing that deep. Never. Always just, I didn't get married to get a divorce. And a lot of people, that's why they stay. They stay for other people. They stay for their family. They stay for the people that are on the outside looking in. Oh man, we thought they were such a perfect couple. We thought they were good together, and you're worrying about other people, their image that you're giving to other people. Some people stay for their children. We can't tell you what to do. Everybody has to make that decision for themselves. But you also have to realize, I came from divorce marriage as well. And I think a lot of times we try so hard because we don't want to be our parents.
We don't want to be our parents. I didn't want that to be my testimony.
Yeah.
I felt like I was breaking the curse. But again, what I said earlier was I could have broken the curse if I had waited on God in the first place, not choose my spouse and then ask God to fix it. Now, again, sometimes, not saying that that doesn't work. Sometimes that, you know, if you find Christ in the relationship, and later in the relationship, that God won't restore it. However, in this case, unfortunately, because I didn't seek him, I had to go through some certain things. And I never asked him if this was my spouse in the first place. I just felt because he was a good man to me. You know, every good man is not a God man.
Right.
And so we definitely have to make sure, you know, and even if you've been following this ministry, you understand that that's why before I got married to my now husband, you know, I was celibate for almost 10 years. 9 years and 10 months.
She know that exactly. Y'all.
I know exactly. But it was because of the fact that I did not want to make this. I no longer wanted to make decisions based on my flesh.
Right.
And I didn't want to make decisions on my own. So because I, you know, had already done it the wrong way, I thought it was best. You know, God knows the thoughts that he has towards me, thoughts of good and not of evil, to give me an expected end. And I wanted that expected end.
That's right.
So, you know, it's okay if your story is you've made one of the, you know, the name of the ministry is Beautifully Reconstructed. And I always say the foundation of it is that God tore me apart so that he can put me back together better for his glory. And so if you're at that point in your story, in your life's journey, that you have made mistakes, I guarantee you that you don't have to stay there. You don't have to continue to walk the path that is towards destruction. You can make that right to the place where God is calling you to, so that you can actually get to the place that he desires for you to be. Right. God definitely has greater, you know, plans for us than we have for ourselves. We think that things, you know, when we have, like I said, I was 26 when I first got married. So of course I was a old maid at that point in my eyes. So, you know, of course I had to get married. But, you know, I got married this time at 40. How old am I? 40. Oh gosh, 46. Yeah, I met my husband at 45. I got married at 46. And so, you know, what was the big deal if I had waited? What if Mark and I, you know, hadn't went through our previous, you know, marriages, and we've just got married at 40? Yeah, what I just said, because now I'm trying to think. 45. I said 45. Yeah, 45.
You got married at 46. Aren't you 47 now?
Oh, we met at 45.
You met at 45.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I got married at 46.
Yeah.
And I'm 47.
You're 47.
Oh, okay. So what was the worst case scenario if I had waited? You know, but the truth is that like the children of Israel, you know, they had a journey that was not 40 years, but it only took them 40 years because they kept murmuring, complaining, and doing things that were against God. Had I not done everything, made all the wrong turns, and allowed God to direct me, I could have been married to Mark
earlier.
Yes. So you never know. But again, no regrets, because of the fact that my testimony is to God be the glory. And now
that's just tips for someone else, for others, now, because you can learn from other people's experiences
without going through it on your own. That's right.
You know, we go through things for other people. It's not always just for us. You know, this is you're a prime example. You know, you went through what you went through for other people, because now you're helping other people. Right. You can learn from other people's experience, and trust me, anything that God desires for you is way more than you can ever desire for yourself. Right. And anything, if you trust what God wants for you, you know, like she said, the thoughts and plans God has for us are never bad, never evil. They're always to give us a good and expected end and hope. So we can always trust that. You ask God, this, you know, this is sometimes what I say in my prayer. I say, God, anything that you desire from me that's not already my desire, place that desire in me.
That's right.
Whatever you have, whatever will you have for my life, if that's not where I'm headed, if I don't have that desire in me, give it to me. I want my desires to be your desires, your will to be my will. Because you know, sometimes, prime example, your previous marriage is what you wanted him. That's what you wanted. God allowed you to have it. You know, we always, you know, we mess things up. Then we go back and ask God, why did you let me go through this? Why did you give me him? Why did you give me her? And the Lord was like, well, I didn't give him or her to you. You wanted it so bad. Right. I was telling you no.
It was his permissible will.
Yes. You don't want his permissible will. You want his perfect will. So trust me, if you're at that point where you have a decision to make whether you want the permissible or the perfect, trust me, the perfect is always going to be better than the permissible.
Always going to be better.
Always.
Always.
God always has the best. He has our best interest at heart. And he's not going to, if you trust him and you're doing what he asked you to do, there's no good thing he's going to withhold from you.
That's right. That's right. And you know, one of the, I want to say this, and we're about to close, but one of the things that you said was so important. You ask God to put the desires, his desires in your heart, because oftentimes when we pray, we say, Lord, you said that you would give me the desires of my heart. However, what we don't realize is that when we draw close to God, he says, if you draw nigh to him, he'll draw nigh to us. And we have built a relationship with him so much to the point where our desires should line up with his. And so those are the desires that he gives. So like sis just said, you know, it's important how you pray. So when those things when we feel as if, okay, those desires within us may not be yours, Lord, show me if they're not. Take them out and give me yours. So that when I truly pray and I say, God, give me the desires of my heart, then I already know that they're yours, so you're going to give them to me. So, you know, and that's so important as we talk about relationship with Christ. You know, that's why it's so important to draw closer to him through his word. You know his word, you know his heart. And so, yeah, this has been really good.
Yeah.
This has been really good. Yeah.
Really good.
You know, it's funny. She says that, you know, now she thinks I'm outgoing. I guess I'm just bolder. I don't think I'm more outgoing. I think I'm just bolder. I think God is just giving me a boldness to share. And now
I'll let you have it.
I think it's just my passion. I think it's my passion now, because I think that's what it is. You know, because I'm passionate now that I've been healed from so many things. It's like I want everybody to walk in their place of healing and restoration. So,
yeah, I can say that.
So now
you want to save the world.
No, that's true, and I can't.
The little girl who had no voice, and now the voice. Now the little girls keep talking and talking and talking.
I do. But that is primarily because I am passionate to see other people heal. And so,
that's awesome. That's what we should want. We should want, you know, to see everybody win and everybody have victory, you know, and everybody get everything that God has for them. You know, when you win, she win, he win, we all win, you know. And just a tidbit, if you're early in your journey with Christ and you don't know how to pray the right way, or, you know, or if you feel like you're not strong enough in prayer yet or whatever, connect with someone who knows how to pray God's will for your life if you're not there yet.
And get in the word. You know, one of the testimonies in Apostle Robinette, you know, one beautiful woman of God, and I'm pretty sure she doesn't mind me sharing because she shares it openly. She talks about the fact that when she first came to Christ, she was diagnosed with lupus, and she only knew the scripture, by his stripes he was wounded for our iniquity, bruised for our, Lord, I'm messing up the scripture. He was wounded for our sins, bruised for our iniquity. The chastisement of our peace was upon him. By his stripes we're healed. I had to get that right, y'all. Y'all be like, she said, and she don't know the scripture, but but that was the only scripture that God gave. I believe she said she actually prayed that scripture for a year, And to God be the glory, when she went back after some time, she got a report that the lupus was no longer there. It was gone. And that's been her testimony, I believe, over 20 years now. So we know God is healer. So, and not only with our physical bodies, with our emotions, with our mental, any parts of us that need to be healed, we know that he can do it. But that's why it's so important to know the word and not be so concerned about, I have to learn the whole Bible today. I became a Christian, so I got to learn the whole Bible today. It's great to be in the word. However, don't allow the enemy to make you feel as if because you don't know Genesis through Revelation that you're not saved. You grow in the word, but the word that you know, you keep that in your heart. Yes. And you believe, we're supposed to walk by faith and not by sight. So if you have that word in your belly, then when it needs to come out, it'll flow out like rivers of living water. So you just need to make sure that the scripture that you are meditating on, that you believe it. You believe it. God is not moved by our emotions. He's moved by our faith. So don't allow the enemy to make you feel as if you're inadequate because you haven't went to school to study the Bible, or you don't know all the scriptures, what have you. What you don't know, when you are forging your relationship with God, he will give you. He will give you. So if you tuned in late, I am Michelle Patrice Wade. I am the host of Beautifully Reconstructed. Let's talk, let's heal, let's live. This is my sister. We have been doing life together for about 2/3 of our lives. And so God gave us the segment, Journey Conversations with Michelle and Michelle. So we will be talking about everything from kingdom matters to practical matters, which will come back to kingdom matters because when you are a child of God and when you are a part of the kingdom, you know that you rely on God for everything. And so although it may be practical, we always want to make sure that God is still involved in our decision making. So tonight we talked about the fact that what type of friend you need to be when you see that your loved one, or your loved one is going through something that they may not be necessarily be sharing, but you know that they're hurting, that you know that they may be in a place where they're unsafe, when they are depressed, when they're going through emotional, physical, whatever type of abuse that they may be enduring at the time, that you don't want to push them away. You don't want to add to the trauma that they are experiencing, but you want to be a friend that there'll be a listening ear, and you definitely want to be a friend that is praying. Definitely. So, Michelle, did you have anything you want to add before we close?
No, I think you said it all.
You think I said it all? Oh, okay. She said I talk all the time, so I guess. Thank you so much for joining us. I know, like I stated, we had to cut off because, of course, we could go on and on and on. But so we will pick up on our next segment where we left off. And I'll tell you how I told you that. Well, it's obvious that I left, but we're going to share, what was that, the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, when God finally got my attention and let me know that it was time to walk away. So we are about to go ahead and close if there's nothing else to say.
Thank you guys for tuning in with us.
That's it.
Do we have any questions?
Oh,
we did. Making comments. Yeah, before we close, did we have any?
We did. We had a lot of comments. Y'all know I don't have on my glasses, so y'all just gonna have to pray for me. Let's see. Let me see. Let's see. Awesome. Okay. Andre said, "Oh, we love you too." Oh, we love you too, cuz. Thank you. Nicole, thank you for tuning in. Consuela, thank you for watching. Intimacy brings alignment. You are right. Definitely. Confidence. The confidence given by God. Yeah, the confidence given by God. Yes, cuz.
Do we have any specific questions?
Let me see. I don't got my glasses on. Why you can put me out? I'm trying to go. Let's see. I don't think we have any.
If there was any specific questions, then she'll reply to you. But
Yeah.
Okay, one of us will reply.
I don't think there was any.
I'm trying to stay behind the scenes. Y'all see, she just steady dragging me
right
up front with her.
Yeah, I don't think there were any questions, but we definitely appreciate you all for tuning in, and we definitely will address the comments if there are any that needs to be addressed. And again, we love each and every one of you. We pray that you have a beautifully reconstructed week and a beautifully reconstructed life. Mwah.